All right, Tim. Thank you so much for joining me once again.
Thanks for having me back, Chris. This is going to be a great discussion and an album that I've always liked. I've always been a fan of this album.
Yeah, I've always liked it too. And today's album is Coverdale Page. So the first time I heard this album, I'm also gonna ask you about the first time you heard it, but because I'm still very a young person, I'm only 21. I heard this like probably like 4 or 5 years ago, and yeah, I really did like it. But there were some songs I didn't get into, but some of the stuff I liked immediately, and I think it's a really solid album, and I've grown to like it very much. So, but there's still some songs I'm not too fond of, but we'll get to that. But yeah, I think this is a really solid album. So yeah, when did you hear the album first, Tim? Did you hear it on release?
Oh yeah. This album was very much
That's
hyped.
cool.
Yeah, this album was very much hyped. I mean, David Coverdale collaborating with Jimmy Page. You know, Jimmy Page hadn't done a lot post Led Zeppelin, so this and famously when Whitesnake 1987 became huge, there were all those accusations that David Coverdale was ripping off Robert Plant, the band was ripping off Led Zeppelin, and so this was like a lot of people didn't expect this collaboration. So yeah, I was actively waiting for it to come out, and I can vividly remember I was in my first year of radio broadcasting, and saw the video for Pride and Joy, and it got a lot of play. As a matter of fact, it was surprisingly, given that early '93, it was a lot of grunge and alternative was happening, but this song was everywhere. So I remember as the singles came out, and I bought the album almost immediately after it came out, and you know it, some people like it, some people don't. Some people just kind of snickered at it. Oh, look at this, Coverdale's getting to be pretend he's in Led Zeppelin. And there were a few Japanese tour dates, but that was it. And unfortunately, it's a one-off. But I, over the years, I go back to it and think, this is just a really, really solid album. And I can see, unfortunately, that it's one I really need to get on vinyl. I don't have it on vinyl. I've just got it on CD and cassette. But it was a little bit overhyped. Maybe I know that for years you could find this album in the $5 bins, the markdown bins, because they pressed so many of them. They expected it to be this huge seller, and it went platinum, but it wasn't. It didn't sell in huge numbers, right? But I don't think that means it's a bad album at all.
No, absolutely not. I think it's a really good album. Some good stuff, some not so good stuff, in my opinion. But I think overall, it has more good songs than bad songs.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
And I even think I wouldn't even say bad songs. There's some that are better than others. Let's just say that.
yeah.
So yeah, what do you think of the cover on this album? I know it kind of mimics like the Led Zeppelin album. I don't remember what it's called, Balance or something. That they
Yeah,
had this object that
yeah,
appeared in like every image, and
yep,
now they do it with the road sign. That in the booklet, every image there is this road sign that
yeah.
appears. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, so this is Hugh Syme artwork. Hugh Syme had done the previous couple of Whitesnake albums, and I think it's to represent the merger of them coming together. But yes, it is definitely a nod to Led Zeppelin's 1976 album Presence, which has the
Presence, yeah,
obelisk, or
presence.
the object showing up in these random photos, right? Um, all over the world in different situations. So it was
Yeah.
kind of a cool nod to Jimmy Page, but at the same time, it was very much a sort of a modern looking album. I particularly like the back cover, the moonscape on it.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, later on, like most album cover designers are not above like kind of reusing ideas if they think they can use it in a different way. And then when in 2008, when Rush put out Snakes and Arrows Live, of course, Hugh Syme did the majority of their artwork. It has like a road sign theme that always reminded me of this. So I
Yeah.
like it. No, I think it's very striking. And like I said, I really want to have it on vinyl.
Yeah. And I have to say, I'm actually not a Led Zeppelin fan. because not because I don't like them or anything. I've just not like discovered that music yet. It hasn't been my time to listen to that yet. I've listened to so
Mhm.
many other stuff, got into other bands, and just haven't had the time to get into Led Zeppelin. And I haven't really felt like it too. So I'm not like a huge Jimmy Page fan. I only like know him from this album. So I have a different perspective on the guitar playing and everything from maybe you or many other people that are probably huge Led Zeppelin fans. So yeah.
Well, the way that I describe it, I was, relatively late getting into Zeppelin. I got into a lot of 70s bands in the early 90s. That's when I got into Led Zeppelin and Queen and Kansas and Deep Purple. Um, so yeah, I'm kind of a newcomer. Like Led Zeppelin had been long broken up, and it took me a few years to get into them because I would always see just clips of them, and they weren't the best quality clips, and I wasn't hearing. I always say I wasn't hearing the right songs or the right albums, but you know, post Led Zeppelin, there wasn't much out of Jimmy Page. He did the Death Wish 2 soundtrack in '81, which I've never heard, but then he did the 2 albums with Paul Rodgers as the Firm in the mid '80s. I had both of those albums, and I don't have them anymore. I thought that the potential was there, but they're just kind of boring. And then he did a solo album in '88 called Outrider, which I didn't like at all. So this is a really good, this is the best he sounded in a long, long time. And I have to think that there was this creative spark there with he and Coverdale because, essentially this is a logical follow-up to Slip of the Tongue. This sounds like a Whitesnake album. David Coverdale's vocals, his lyric writing, everything. It's such, it's the majority of it. I mean, if you're not a Whitesnake fan, I can't see how you'd like this album. This is a set of songs that David Coverdale probably would have introduced if Whitesnake had done an album around this time. It's just they've got a very famous guitar player collaborating, but the whole sound of the album, it's one of the best recorded albums Page has ever played on because a lot of people, as innovative as he was as a guitar player, the Led Zeppelin album productions, which he did them all pretty much, they're hit and miss. This is a fantastic sounding album. I mean, it was self-produced with I think that a lot of the heavy lifting was done by Mike Frazier, who was a fantastic engineer and mixer. But it's a well-produced album. But as a Led Zeppelin fan I came into this, I thought it was cool that they were working together, but I would have come into this even if I hadn't been into Led Zeppelin because I was such a big Whitesnake fan, and I was kind of disappointed when they weren't going to continue making albums. So this is definitely the next best thing.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, it is a really good sounding album. I like the production of it. I would say it's not really that 90s sounding, maybe the drums in some ways, but I think it's mostly 80s sounding. I think it's more leaning towards 80s sound than 90s because they weren't
Oh
really
yeah,
following what was going on because this time like grunge was taking
yeah.
over, and this doesn't really sound like a grunge album at all. This is more
No,
like in the vein of classic rock and also melodic rock, whatever, as
yeah.
David Coverdale usually did in the 80s.
Da- David Coverdale was not going to go grunge. That was
No.
just never, that was just never a consideration. I mean, some bands of his era kind of dipped their toes in it, but he just didn't. He just didn't think like that. That was not going to. That it was never going to be dark and. So I think that it was almost like, and also this album was a long time coming. It came out in early '93. I think it was probably supposed to come out more like '91.
Yeah, that's
So
when they started recording it. Yeah.
I think maybe if it had come out earlier, it probably would have sold more. The grunge did have an effect on it. You know,
Yeah.
when you see the video for Pride and Joy. I mean, Coverdale is doing the mic stand twirls and he's doing all of his usual things, which were supposedly not cool by that time. I never thought it wasn't cool. But I do think it made a difference. I think if it had come out a little bit earlier, there might have been more of a following behind it. But as it stands, it's just a really, really good album. That's almost like you said, outside of time. This is not a typical 1993 sounding album, other than the production is very crisp, very perfect. There's no, it's just perfect sounding, I think. And the drums are really well produced. I mean, yeah, oddly enough, this album has more in common sonically with the Blue Murder album from '89 than it does either of the previous Whitesnake albums, I think. And it's got that big sound.
Yeah,
If I'm not mistaken, I think Mike Fraser engineered the Blue Murder album too. So there's some connections there.
Yeah, as you say, this album doesn't like sound like Slip of the Tongue or the '87 album in the production, not even the songs, and not even like Coverdale's voice, because after Slip of the Tongue, of the recording of the album and the tour, like Coverdale like damaged his vocal cords.
Yeah.
Because if you listen to the live at Donington in 1990, like he just screams the whole set. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. It's pretty rough listening. Yeah, it really is.
That probably took its toll on his voice, and you can hear. I will mention it when we get to the songs, but there are some notes that they just can't hit anymore, and there's some like hoarseness in his voice. Like, so he almost sounds like sick sometimes when he sings. So so there's a massive difference from Slip of the Tongue to this in David Coverdale's like vocals.
Yeah, I think, well, part of the problem is that Slip of the Tongue, every song was recorded in they should have lowered the keys on a lot of the songs on Slip of the Tongue, because he's literally screaming on the album, and that led its way into the tour, and I think he did permanent damage. But I think that in this case, it's for the better, because it's a better listen, I think. And yes, he does have a huskiness to his voice, a hoarseness, but I think it lends itself well. I think he sings really well within that slightly lower key. The thing is, if you go from Slide It In to the 1987 album Slip of the Tongue, David Coverdale was never like that. He was never a Robert Plant. Like, he was never the high pitched singer, not even like Ian Gillan or like, so he kind of went into that, on songs like Still of the Night and stuff. And he was kind of singing out of his range. And if you do that, you're going to do damage to yourself eventually. Because it's just not natural you have to force yourself to get there. It doesn't come easily. But when he sings in that lower bluesier key, it's better, I think. I mean, that's the sound that you hear on the Deep Purple albums and the early Whitesnake albums. This is like a modern version of it with a little more rasp. I really like his vocal performance for the most part on this album, and it kind of provides the listener with a little bit of a break from everything just being on 11 the whole time as far as his vocals are concerned. Yeah, Live at Donington is a rough listen. I mean, it's a fantastic band, but I never listened to it because, also, to be fair, I think that was one of the last dates on the Slip of the Tongue tour. I don't know if we caught, if there was a recording from like a month or two into the tour, if it would have been better. But like, he was literally screaming on songs that didn't need to be screamed over.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You have a great point that like Coverdale and the sound of the record kind of goes back to what he did earlier with Whitesnake and Deep Purple, more bluesy type songs. And I think he even goes further with that concept on the next album, Restless Heart. I think that's even more bluesier.
Very much.
Yeah. So, and I really like that. So I think both Restless Heart and this is very successful in that way. That he changed the direction, because if he like continued with the super high screaming all the time, there is some screaming on this, absolutely. But it's not like Slip of the Tongue all the time, and like the tour of the album and everything. So I think it's for the better that he kind of lowered his voice and the key, and that also gives a great contrast, because if you have moments that are quieter and you hear his like more bluesier, deeper voice, the more screamy parts stick out more than Slip of the Tongue screaming all the time. So
yes, Yeah, absolutely. Dynamics. Yeah,
Absolutely,
I
yeah.
like Slip of the Tongue. I've got a soft spot for it
Me
because
too.
as a fan that got into the band with the 87 album, Slip of the Tongue was the first one I was waiting on to come out. And I still really like it. But the other thing is Jimmy Page would not have been, he would not have written riffs that were, by the time the Slip of the Tongue came out, it was the band's image was very glam. Like it was really, really glam. I mean, everybody had the big hair. I mean, Coverdale's hair is not naturally blonde, but he was full on blonde at this period, right? Jimmy Page does not that. He's too old school for that. So there's a natural bluesiness that both of them brought to this, and I think it's really better for it. There's no way that another album like Slip of the Tongue wouldn't even have sold as well as this one did. It would
Yeah.
have been dead. It would have been dead in the water. So whereas this very much sounds like a modern day Whitesnake album, it's toned back. Like this album, I think, has more in common with Slide It In than it does with 87 or Slip of the Tongue.
Yeah.
As far as
Yeah,
vocally
maybe,
and
yeah.
as far as the arrangements of the songs, it's not, you know, I like Slip of the Tongue. I love Steve Vai. I don't think he was the best fit for Whitesnake. It's that flashy guitar playing, whereas Jimmy Page just does what he would do on a recording project. And I think it's some of his best playing too. There's some great acoustic playing on here. There's some great lead playing, and like I said, the production is. It's good to hear a well-produced album with Jimmy Page playing on it, because most of the time when he produces, it's this blocky. There's no treble. It's not the greatest sound. So yeah, I don't know. I just really like this album, and I think that if it had done, I don't know. I can't see it have turned into a band where there would have been like 5 Coverdale Page albums, but it would have been cool to see at least one more. But that wasn't the way it worked out.
Yeah, and you mentioned the acoustic guitar. Like revisiting this last week, I just didn't remember that there was so much acoustic on this album, or more than I remembered.
Yeah. Even on the
So yeah,
heavy songs.
that's a surprise.
Yeah. Even on the heavy songs, like Shake, the first thing you hear on this album is acoustic guitar.
Yeah, we can start off
Shake My
with
Tree.
that
Yeah.
immediately. Shake My Key, the first song. As you say, it starts off with acoustic guitar and such like a good guitar melody and riff. Just love it so much. Great riff. And just the drums and everything when they come in, it's so heavy. And you have the electric guitar in the background. It's just so great. And just David Coverdale's like you hear like in the background, you hear his voice like swirling throughout the sound. It's really interesting.
It's like
And
it's like a reverse echo.
yeah,
Like you
exactly,
hear
exactly.
you hear the echo before you hear the signal that makes the echo. And that's something. And Jimmy Page was kind of a pioneer with that, with Led Zeppelin. He would use that effect a lot, not just for vocals, but for guitar and drums and everything. So yeah, it's cool. And you hear you automatically hear you hear it in David Coverdale's voice, but it's just, you're into it. And that guitar lick, the opening guitar lick, that's very Jimmy Page, that sort of twisty guitar riff. I mean, that's just the way that he would write. So this song is a perfect introduction. Here's what you're going to get. You like Led Zeppelin, you're going to get some Led Zeppelin guitar. You like David Coverdale, this is very much David Coverdale. And yeah, when the drums come in, I do want to mention too, like the musicians on this album.
Denny Carmassi.
Denny Carmassi on drums. I mean, Denny's fantastic drummer. I mean, he had that sort of John Bonham big sound. I mean, all the way back to 1973 on the first Montrose album. He was right there in terms of really well recorded drums and just big booming in your face drums. He probably had the highest profile from the mid to late 80s when he was in the revamped version of Heart. But yeah, it was a perfect choice. He was a perfect choice for this album. I mean, if they weren't going to, if Coverdale wasn't going to continue working with Tommy Aldridge, Denny Carmassi was a fantastic choice. And the bass on this album, who played bass on this one? I should know this right off the top of my head. Um, oh,
Yeah.
it was Ricky Phillips, at least on some of the songs. Ricky Phillips was a member of the band The Babies with John Waite and Jonathan Cain, but he was also in Bad English with John Waite and Jonathan Cain, but he was in Styx for many years and in more recent years. So great bass playing on here. And why can I not see? Oh yeah, okay. So yeah. Uh, he's not the only bass player on here. Somebody named Jorge. This is really Casas. It's not a name I recognize. And then there's John Harris on harmonica. Each track has individual listings. I know Ricky Phillips was involved with the initial recording of this album. He just doesn't seem to be credited on everything here. But I mean, obviously, if Page had wanted to, he could have played the bass himself. But oh no, Ricky Phillips is on at least one of the songs. So yeah, but Denny Carmassi is he drives the bus. His drums are just, and they're well recorded. I like that kind of drum sound myself. I'm a sucker for it. So
Yeah.
and Shake My Tree was actually there's no video for it, but it was released as a radio single because after Pride and Joy came out, I can remember again, I was in radio broadcasting, so I was starting to the college radio station would get sampler CDs sent in by the labels. So I remember an MCA sampler disc coming that had Shake My Tree on it. And I still hadn't bought the album. So I had the two songs that I knew before I actually bought the album. It's a great opener. And I want to mention this. One of the most unusual things about this song is that, very, very soon after like this album, the tour didn't happen and Coverdale and Page went their separate ways. Page surprised a lot of people because he and Robert Plant got together and they did the sort of acoustic unleaded, they called it, and they released the album No Quarter, which was half Led Zeppelin songs and there were some new recordings on it. But there you can find from the tour that they did for that album, they did Shake My Tree. You can hear Robert Plant singing David Coverdale, which is crazy.
And his vocal approach is very different to David's.
Very,
and people
very different.
Compare them, but I think Coverdale has his own style. I don't think like David cover version Dale. That was like the thing at the time.
There were 1987, 1988. There were a lot of bands that were accused of ripping off Led Zeppelin. I think the most notable one was the band Kingdom Come, because when they came out, their first single, Get It On, that was completely and totally meant as a Led Zeppelin sound-alike song. I mean, it sounds like Kashmir. It sounds like any number of Led Zeppelin songs. And it was kind of released to radio without it really saying who they were. Like, people actually thought, holy cow, Led Zeppelin got back together. They really did think that. And yes, Still of the Night. Still of the Night is the main Whitesnake song. I can't think of there's not many other Whitesnake songs that do this, but Still of the Night owes a little bit to Led Zeppelin songs like Black Dog, where it stops and starts, where it has that long section in the middle, like Whole Lotta Love, but it's very surface. And I think it was an easy target, but obviously there was a hunger for music like that. And it's like, if Led Zeppelin's not going to get back together, well, here's something that kind of reminds people of. Now, I didn't mean anything to me. People was like, what the heck is Led Zeppelin, right? Like when I got into Whitesnake, the only Led Zeppelin thing I'd ever heard was this old video of them on some, like, I don't know if it's from the BBC, but they're doing Dazed and Confused. It's where Jimmy Page has the violin bow, and it just sounded like noise to me. I'm like, the Whitesnake is way better than that. What are the people talking about? Are they crazy? This is good. It's old, and like, it took me a while to get to appreciate it, but I think it's a very superficial comparison. Now, a song like Judgment Day on Slip of the Tongue, that's very Kashmir like, but a lot of bands did songs like that sort of had those Eastern and it had that dun, 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 had that kind of gallop like that. They're not the only ones that did that. But my point is that this Coverdale Page album, it's not Led Zeppelin with Coverdale singing, nor is it Whitesnake with Jimmy Page on guitar. It's kind of elements of both, but it becomes its own thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I remember watching like the video that you, Peter Kerr, Reed Little, and some other people did, and yeah, I think Reed mentioned that like this album is like 70% Whitesnake and 30% Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Now I can't really comment on the Led Zeppelin part because I'm not a fan of Led Zeppelin, but I can definitely say that there's a lot of Whitesnake in this album. Absolutely.
The
So
30%, the 30% Zeppelin, it's more like 30% Page, really, because Zeppelin did all kinds of different sorts of music. I mean, this is concentrating on the bluesier, heavier stuff that Zeppelin would do, but they're definitely a lot of these are Jimmy Page riffs. I mean, Coverdale is a songwriter. He's not necessarily a riff writer. And these don't sound like riffs that Bernie Marsden or Mickey Moody would have come up with, or, you know, in some cases, maybe John Sykes, but not a lot. Like, because Jimmy Page isn't that kind of guitar player. These are those kind of simple, like I say, twisty-turny kind of riffs. There's a lot of those on this album that, you know, another guitar player might not necessarily have come out with. But when you filter it through this sound, this big sound, and Coverdale's voice and lyrics and just his whole approach, it is mostly it's more Whitesnake than Zeppelin. Definitely.
yeah,
Definitely.
I would agree with that. Yeah. So yeah, one last thing about "Shake My Tree." I really do love the harmonica part in this song. I think it really does rock. So yeah, it's surprising that a harmonica can rock that hard, but I think it's really, really good in the song. I do unfortunately think that in a later song on the album, it doesn't work, for me at least. So, yeah, but I think "Shake My Tree" is a fantastic opener. Really, really good song. Now the next one, "Waiting on You." I really do like this one. This is one of my favorites, but I do have a number one, but we come to that later. But yeah, I think this is one of my top three songs on the album. Really do like the beginning, and here you really hear on the "Shake My Tree," but I think it's more prevalent here. David Coverdale's voice, you hear it immediately. It has this like huskiness, hoarseness to it. My heart is breaking, my whole life is shaking, all that, you really hear that in his voice. And I love the guitar riff in this too. It's a really driving guitar riff. I just really do enjoy it. So great song, catchy song. I like the pre-chorus too. That no matter what you say, no matter what
it's really melodic.
I love that.
Just for it elevates it for a second.
Yeah. And the actual chorus is really short. Just waiting on you. But I think it's great.
It's really effective. It does all it's supposed to do. Yeah. No, I love it. I think this song just rumbles along. Like this is a slow, heavy one. Love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah. Really great. Really great. Now, "Take Me for a Little While." Really, really nice ballad. Really good song. I do really enjoy the keyboards in this, or the
strings,
the
orchestration.
Yeah, really do enjoy that. I think it elevates the song, and it kind of gives it more of an epic feel with the strings, the keyboards.
Very much, yeah.
It adds very much. So I think it's great. I think Coverdale's voice again. This is really a song where you also hear the huskiness in his voice.
Make me. Yeah,
exactly. That part, yeah. So, but I think it works actually.
Yeah,
I like that it's different to what came before. I like that it's different to "Slip of the Tongue." It would have bothered me if it was the same as "Slip of the Tongue." He would just have screamed these vocals. So I like that he kind of limits his range a bit and goes lower. So in keys. So I do really appreciate that. So I think that's great. Overall, really, really good song. What do you think?
Oh, I love it. Yeah, it's this was the only other video from this album, and it was another single. I love. Well recorded acoustic guitar. It's just beautifully recorded, and it's sort of what I like about it is there's an air of mystery to, you know, the way that it
Yeah.
ends is sort of like, huh, where's this going to go? And I mean, it was sort of a foregone conclusion. There was going to be a big epic ballad on this album because there kind of had to be. But you're right. It doesn't sound anything like anything that's on Slip of the Tongue. Now, unlike um, it's not unlike a song like Looking for Love, which was not on the international or not on the North American version of 1987 originally, but it's kind of more like it's an epic ballad. But
Yeah.
I think that David Coverdale's vocals, the raspiness really suits this song. Like he's sort of got this world weary sound, like and I mean, you know, to be honest with you, without, you know, it doesn't matter what was going on peripherally, but the fact of the matter is that most people know. I mean, he was married to Tawny Katane, and that had ended by this point. So he was just kind of coming down from all of that late 80s glam, being in the spotlight all the time and the videos played all the time. And, you know, he probably was kind of weary. And the funny thing is, you know, people talked about, I remember at the time in 1993, oh yeah, well, he's old. He was like 42. He wasn't old, you know? So, but it's, I really like the dynamics in this song and the dun 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 dun, like before the chorus kicks in,
Yeah.
and it's a power ballad definitely, but it's not an over the top power ballad. I think it's one of Page's best solos, and it's that simple but effective use of just a few notes, like that.
Yeah.
That's all
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
needs. It did not need a flashy, you know, Steve Vai, Adrian Vandenberg, John Sykes guitar solo. It just needed a bluesy guitar solo, which is what it gets, and then it just comes down to that acoustic guitar again. The strings, the keyboards, perfect. You know, I don't even think that in 87 or 88 that this would have been a hit because it's long and you really don't want to edit it that much, but what a great song.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the other thing about this album. I don't think there's a lot of commercial considerations on here because this song is 6:17. A lot of them regularly top 5 minutes, and a lot of them are over 6 minutes and even longer. So obviously they were just doing what they wanted to do. But yeah, this is definitely a highlight of the album, I think.
And that's one thing I don't like about the CD era, where they like wanted to have more value for money and fill up the album with so much music.
Yeah.
I think that kind of takes away from the original concept of an album, restricting it to like 40 minutes around there, 45 minutes, even shorter sometimes.
Yeah.
So
But you know that the other thing about that is like there are songs on here, like there's only 11 songs on here, but they're long songs. Not
Yeah.
all of them need to be quite that long, but Led Zeppelin got into that too. Like there's even songs that I really like by Led Zeppelin. It's like, you know, they really could have shaved a couple minutes off here and really got to the point, but
Yeah.
that's not how, you know, it wasn't like that. But yet at the same time, Zeppelin would put out albums with 7 songs on them, you know, so they were an album length, but there weren't a lot of songs. It's just they were long. So in this case, it doesn't feel quite so much like they're cramming every square inch of the CD. I mean, I don't know right off the top of my head how long this album is, but
I think it's just above an hour or something. So there's
yeah,
like 20 minutes left on the CD.
yeah. So they didn't fill the CD up, and it only has 11 songs on it, so it doesn't feel as long. But I don't think either of these guys came from that era of we've got to cram this album. I think it was much more let's put out the absolute best songs that we've written.
But
But
this album was released like in maybe 1980, whatever, like 1988, 89 or something. This would not have been like an hour long. I think maybe because in the late 80s, some bands moved towards more longer, maybe 50 minutes, 55 minutes. But I think this would have been like probably 45 to 50 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There would have been, you know, 10 songs that were between 4.5, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's about what Slip of the Tongue is.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Now the next song, Pride and Joy. This is one I'm happy that it's short because I don't like it. So this
Yeah.
is the shortest song on the album, and this is what I mentioned earlier with the harmonica. I think this is really, really annoying. I think it's too much, and I think this is. There's another song that comes later that's also kind of cheesy in the lyrics, but I think it works better than this. I just don't like this one that much. I don't like Coverdale's vocal delivery. I think it's a bit too much, even for him. So yeah, don't enjoy this that much. But what do you think about Pride and Joy?
Well, I understand everything that you just said, but I do like this song, but I like it. It makes me snicker.
Yeah,
This was the first single, and this was the first taste anybody had of this album. This was a well in advance of the album coming out, and I can remember catching the video when it was first played, and it got to the end of it, and it was like, what did I just watch? Um, because the first day it's got that weird drum beat, a very strange drum beat. It's not your typical 4/4. I know they were probably trying to do something different, but this is definitely the most White Snake sounding song on here in David Coverdale's lyrics and vocal approach. But it's also got the big Led Zeppelin type riffs and drums, the stop start thing. And it's like a microcosm of what it's almost like they wrote this to say, okay, this is what everybody thinks the entire album's going to sound like. Let's have a little fun with them and put something that's a little over the top. Um, for whatever reason, it was a number one on Billboard Mainstream Rock. I think it was number one for 5 weeks. I mean, it got a ton of airplay. I mean, you have to understand at the time there was a lot of hype behind this. It was like, holy cow, David Coverdale, Jimmy Page working together. What's that going to sound like? And it comes out, but almost. I think there are some really cool parts in here. I actually do kind of like the harmonica in it, but I understand hearing it without any of that context in it, just listening to an album that came out years ago, you'd be like, what is this? Um, the thing that always threw me was that weird drum beat. It was like this weird, the snare doesn't fall where you think it's going to fall. I've read that it was loosely based on a Zeppelin song, oddly enough, from Presence called Hot Song for Nowhere. But I don't, and it's got an unusual drum beat, but it's not like this. It's just where the snare, you almost can't, it's hard to make out the beat. It really is. And I don't know. It's, among my circle of friends for a while, it was like, we kind of joked about it. It'd be like, "Da-da-da-da-da-da-da." Like, we'd kind of do that and everybody know what
yeah,
we're talking about. So
yeah,
I do like it, but I also understand why I like it, but I also realize that it's a little silly.
yeah. But I do actually like one part of the song, and it's the very beginning. I like the acoustic guitar in the
Oh, it's
beginning.
great. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's great.
I
Yeah,
do like that part.
it sounds to
So
it sounds like it's in an open tuning, which is something that Jimmy Page would do a lot in Led Zeppelin. He'd use these unusual tunings to get different sounds, but it sounds like, I don't know if it's an open D, but basically what that means, if you don't play guitar, it's like you tune the guitar in a way that you don't even need to put your hand on the fretboard. You just strum the strings and it makes a chord, so you can do different things with it. That's what I think is going on here. There's probably more than one guitar. In the video, Coverdale's actually playing guitar, which looks funny to me. I'm not used to seeing him playing a guitar, but yeah, again, I think the quiet MVP of this album is the acoustic guitar. It just sounds so good and pure.
yeah, absolutely. It kind of sounds like "Ain't Gonna Cry No More," but like countrified in some
A
ways.
little bit, yeah. It's got
Yeah,
that jangly kind of. Yeah, no, I hear what you mean. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It's like
yeah.
ain't gonna cry no more on steroids with a cowboy hat on.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Now the next song, I'm also not a huge fan of this one. Over Now. I think it's not the longest song, absolutely not. It's like over 5 minutes
It
long,
feels long, right?
but it feels long. It doesn't really go anywhere, and I think it's boring. It's a harsh word, but I think this is really boring song. It doesn't really go anywhere for me.
Coverdale doesn't do a lot for it because it's over now. Like, it's very laid
Yeah,
back vocally.
Yeah.
This is the one on this album I think dips into a little of that cashmere with that sort of the strings, that sort
Yeah.
of Eastern sound. Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah.
It's not the best one on here for sure.
But I do like the guitar part, do 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 do, that you get throughout the song. I do
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
I there's things I like about it like that, like it kind of drones. And I
Yeah.
understand the point, but I think again they probably could have, this could have been 3.5 minutes and it would have made its point.
Yeah. And the great thing about the next song is that it picks up the tempo again, feeling hot,
So
really, really
I
fast.
wasn't, yeah, I
Song.
remember I wasn't expecting to hear anything this fast on here. So this was a nice
Yeah.
surprise.
Yeah. So this is the song. I think this Pride and Joy didn't work for me. I think this works better, even though these lyrics are really cheesy. Women to the left, women to the right,
This is
everything.
this could have been
Yeah,
on
it's so Coverdale. This
this
song.
could have been
Really.
on Come and Get It or Saints and Sinners, like
Yeah.
Wine, Women, and Song, or
Dancing
Dancing
Girls.
Girl. Yeah, yeah. Rough and Ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But it's old school Whitesnake for sure.
Yeah,
But
and that's probably
I
why
love
I
the,
like it.
but I like like I like that. I like the
Yeah.
fact that it's fast. And it's not that long. It's just over 4 minutes. So
Yeah.
tempo wise, it picks up the album where it should be. And I think the reason that also that you might like this more than Pride and Joy is it's a pretty standard drum beat. It doesn't do
It's straightforward.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also like the whoa, that part
Yeah.
in the song too. And then you have the guitar answering like so I really do like that part. And you have the drums just so great between the woes and everything. So I think that's really, really good. Yeah, it really like picks up the pace of the album. So I think this is a great position on the album after Over Now. It really picks up the pace. So yeah, I do like this one, even though it's really, really cheesy. I think it works because it's classic Coverdale, classic Whitesnake.
Yeah, it's this and Pride and Joy are probably the most Whitesnake sounding songs on this album.
Yeah, yeah. Now Easy Does It is also a bit slower in the beginning. It picks up a little bit, but mostly it's also a bit slower song. But I do like this one way more than Over Now, absolutely. I do like the Coverdale's vocal delivery too, even though it's a bit similar to Over Now in its approach, but I think it's a bit more energetic this time, just a little bit than that one. Because Over Now he sounds bored. This one he doesn't. So I think this is really great, and when it really picks up, it's really, really good. So I think this is a solid one, even though it's kind of long. It's like close to 6 minutes. I think it works better.
I do. I like this one too. And I think maybe one of the differences is that, yes, Coverdale's vocal approach is the same, but the music is more interesting. There's more things happening with it. Yeah. This song, the beginning of it, you're kind of listening for things that, because Jimmy Page would famously recycle. Well, they were both recyclers. Coverdale would recycle lyrics a lot. And Page would recycle like riffs or at least song ideas. Now, this kind of reminds me, there's a song on Led Zeppelin 3, so all the way back to 1970, called Friends. And this reminds me of that song a little bit with sort of circular riff. But it doesn't feel like it's almost 6 minutes long. I don't mind this one.
Yeah. And that guitar riff, when it really kicks in, down, 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 it's like really, really aggressive and heavy. I do really enjoy that too.
Yeah.
So yeah, great song, great song. Take a look at yourself. This is probably the most typical David Coverdale ballady type song. Could have been like on 87 or maybe not Slip of the Tongue, but probably 87. Yeah, I do like it, but I think Take Me for a Little While is a better attempt at this sort of song than this.
Way better. To me, first of all, this is 5 minutes long. It doesn't need to be. There's not much to this song. This is, again, where David Coverdale starts to, I think, recycle first thing in the morning and the last thing. Like, it's very predictable. This could have been we talked about Restless Heart at the beginning. That was supposed to be a David Coverdale solo album. It's
Yeah.
very mellow in comparison. This sounds like it could have been on there, but I don't think there's much of a song here, and it goes on way too long. The chorus repeats way too many times at the end,
Yeah.
and I've said this many times. If I really like a song, the chorus can repeat indefinitely, and I'm just into it. Listening to the fade out, but there's just not much to this one. I don't think it's bad per se, but this sounds like a song that Coverdale had pretty much completely written by the time this guy. I don't hear any Page here. There's nothing different. There's nothing interesting about the guitar. It could be my least favorite on the album.
Yeah. So this song really, like, it feels like David Coverdale has written this type of song many times before,
and would again.
Yeah, and it doesn't really bring in new elements
No.
in this. So yeah, as you say, he recycled some aspects for this song. So yeah, I think it's all right. It's not bad per se, but it's not really that great. Yeah. It's all right.
If I was going to rank the songs on this album, this would probably come in last. But it's okay. I just don't think there's not a lot. Even if you don't like Pride and Joy, there are interesting parts. There's nothing interesting about this song. It's like once you get the first verse and chorus, you've got the rest of the song. There's no dynamic changes halfway through like Easy Does It. Like it doesn't. There's no shift in tempo. It's very all the way through.
This is like a more upbeat version of Over Now. It doesn't really change. It's just the same all the way through. Yeah. Don't Leave Me This Way. This is, I think this song, first of all, way too long.
Way too long.
This is almost 8 minutes.
Yeah, it's the longest song on the album, and it's probably the one that that least needs to be this long.
Yeah, and it's a very bluesy song. So in its lyrical content and everything. And yeah, I do really, really enjoy Coverdale's vocal performance in this. Absolutely, he kills it on this one. But I still feel it's too long. I think this could have been like a 4.5 to 5 minute song max. I think that would have worked much better than nearly 8 minutes. But I do also really enjoy like the descending is what I would describe it as. It's kind of descends, the guitar riff at the end.
Yeah.
When Coverdale goes like really wild when he sings. And that part actually reminds me of a certain song on an album released in 1983. Can you guess what it is? It's a metal album released in 1983. And there's a certain song on that album that does sound like this. Do you have any guess, Tim?
Well, I'm not sure what this is just a guess. If you say a metal album from 1983, are we talking about Dio?
Absolutely.
Something from
Holy Diver.
Yeah.
Shame on the Night, the last song on Holy Diver. There's this part at the very end where you have these like voices in the background going, it goes like that. And the guitar riff in Don't Leave Me This Way at the very end kind of has this like descending melody where it goes down in a very similar way. So I was thinking like, what song is this reminding me of? I'm like, oh, all right, it's Shame on the Night from Dio's Holy Diver album.
Isn't that's so
interesting because I A/B compared them and they are very similar. Very similar.
It's really, really interesting when you talk about the family tree, say, of Deep Purple, because not only Dio and Coverdale both played with Ritchie Blackmore, obviously, but Vivian Campbell was briefly in Whitesnake, but yet never at this. It's a totally different feel, because because the Coverdale Page album, there's nothing goth about it or like really metallic, but yet it wouldn't surprise me if, putting that song together, Dio wanted to do something more, well, you could say like Purple, but maybe something, what would Led Zeppelin do at this point in the song, to make it mysterious sounding. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting how these things come back around. Um, and when you're reminded of a song that's very specific and not the only way you'd know that song is if you were familiar with the album, right? It wasn't a single or anything like that. Yeah, it's interesting. It's stuff that's kind of floating around the air. You don't know if it's on purpose or if you heard it in passing. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah,
I will.
if you haven't heard that song in a good while, you should listen to it because it is very similar. It's not identical, but it's very close. It's very close. So that's really cool. So what were you going to say, Tim?
I just say, it's not a Don't Leave Me This Way is not a bad song. Way too long. Like,
yeah,
maybe even cut it in half.
Yeah,
it's almost 8 minutes long. Does not need to be.
Yeah, it's the same thing with that song from Toto's Minefields. I'm just blanking on the name.
Oh, the High Price of Hate.
High Price of Hate.
That's
10-minute
like
long blues.
Yeah, 9:14 or something like that. It's just a blues song, and it's like I can't hang with it.
With this one. It's too drawn out.
I can't. Yeah, it's like I can't hang with this for the full duration of it. I can't. I gotta move on. Listen to it once to say that I've heard it, but
I rather listen to this song than that one.
Oh, I would too. Yeah, that one's that is just that's a strange one. That was a strange decision for them to make, to just go on that long. I can understand if you're in the studio jamming and it's cool and it feels good, but don't leave it all on. Make that a bonus track.
Yeah. Now, Absolution Blues, I think this is one of the highlights. It's
this smokes. Really
good. Just that riff. I just love that. It's so great.
Now, really Chris, I would say, like, if you're not overly familiar with Led Zeppelin, which, that's, so it's one of those things that, maybe you'll get to eventually, but I would definitely say, look up a song by Led Zeppelin called Wearing and Tearing. It's the very last song on their very last album. And their last album came out in 1982 called Coda. It's not really an album. It's sort of like Def Leppard's Retroactive. It's like, it's leftover songs from over the years, and it was to fill the contract after John Bonham died in 1980. But Wearing and Tearing is one of the fastest, heaviest Led Zeppelin songs. And the riff to that goes, it's not a copy, but when I first heard Absolution Blues, I'm like, Wearing and Tearing. But I love it. I love it. It's fast. It's exciting, and it's its own song other than the riff. But if you listen to that, you're like, oh yeah, I hear what he means. It's not. If you A/B it, it's like, well, they're both fast and they're both ascend as opposed to descending. They're ascending riffs. Other than that, it's its own thing. But what a great! Oh, this just smokes. This is so good.
Yeah. And I do like after the chorus where you have the drums and the guitar going like just really, and Coverdale singing "Wash my tears away," and so good, really good song.
Yeah, this is really, like, I think it's some of his best lyrics. This is a highlight of the album for sure, and I love the fact that it's so late in the running order. It's like, hey, wake up.
Yeah, absolutely. Really good song. But I have to say, The Closer is my absolute favorite. This is the best song on the album.
This is an epic. This is this has got some good lyrics too. It's almost like, wow,
Coverdale singing about war. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's like a lot of the time you can just picture him sitting down and cutting and pasting his previous lyrics. It's like, taking you home tonight, love and treat me right. Oh, that's good. No, but these last two songs are some of his best, deepest lyrics. This is, I mean, you kind of expect an album like this to end on an epic note with a longer song, but it's okay because it's totally appropriate. I love it. Yeah, really good.
Yeah, and the same thing goes for this one as Don't Leave Me This Way. I think this is like peak Coverdale, like vocal performance. It's so great. And at the very end, he just screams. And this really does work because he hasn't like screamed through the whole album. So when he does it here, it does have an impact. It really does work. And yeah, I think it sounds really, really great. And just love the acoustic guitar riff in the beginning. I just love it so much. It's very moody. I think this is a very moody song, and yeah, and his vocal performance also in the quieter parts in the very beginning. Hear the sound of distant thunder echo all around. Those parts are really, really good. So yeah, I think definitely my favorite on the album.
It would be one of my top 3 or 4 on the album. I just think you just listen to it and you go, wow, that's good. Like that's what you'd expect by, veteran players like this, right? Now, yeah, it's funny. Like I think the last 2 songs on the album are 2 of the best. And I wonder, like, I don't know enough about, I'd be interested to know what order these songs were written in. Like, what was the first, when they first got together and started jamming, what's the first thing they came up with? Like, I would imagine Jimmy had like a storehouse of riffs that he'd been playing with for years, and what can you do with this? And then Coverdale's like, well, I've kind of got this idea, and but yeah, I mean, look, it's for anybody that would denigrate this album, I'd say, when's the last time you actually listened to it? Like it's really good. It's really, for me, I think if you left, I'm going to say if you left Take a Look at Yourself and shortened Don't Lead Me This Way and made this a 10-song album, I think it would be stronger. But as it stands, it's a really good album. It deserves another listen. And I think that, again, I think it was a little late coming out, or maybe it was a little early. Maybe it wasn't an album that was going to sell multi-millions in the heart of grunge, which is it came out right in the middle of grunge. So, but it's a great album. And I know Coverdale has wanted to reissue it with some extra songs on it, and apparently it must be Jimmy Page that's holding it up. Maybe someday we'll eventually see a nice deluxe version of it come out, and I wouldn't mind seeing some of the live stuff. There was footage recorded, but a really cleaned up version of it. I would love to hear, I would love to hear Page playing Still of the Night, and I would love to hear Coverdale singing a couple Led Zeppelin songs, because that's obviously they couldn't go out and just play this album. They would have had to dip into their past repertoire. So I think it was a missed opportunity, right? Because again, if this had come out in 1991, this could have been a huge tour. Like Coverdale Page on tour. Are you kidding me? Like, yeah. But in 93, it was just like, it wasn't friendly towards music like this, the music scene, at least in North America.
Yeah, and you mentioning the potential super deluxe box set. Like, I think Coverdale said that both Jimmy and him were supposed to do different remixes for the album. So they did like one remix each for what they wanted personally for the sound of the album, and maybe some bonus stuff and live stuff and the original album remaster. But now that Coverdale has retired, it feels like he wouldn't be that involved. Maybe he would be a little, but it feels like if this album came out as a deluxe box set, maybe the record company and other people would be more in charge of the direction and everything, because it feels like David is really done. Like,
I mean, true to his word, when he backed away from social media, that we haven't heard a peep out of him. So, I don't think his health is great, and he's 7 years younger than Jimmy Page. Jimmy Page is 82. So, I mean, like, these guys eventually there's going to come a time when, if these albums, they'll have to be reissued posthumously. But I do think eventually we're going to see, because people still talk about Led Zeppelin, people still talk about Whitesnake. I think there's enough interest. I think we'll see some sort of deluxe version of this eventually, even if it's, I hate to say this, even if it's the estates of these guys that okay it. But what you need is somebody you need a really good remixer. You need somebody that loves this music to go through and curate the master tapes and say, well, what else is there? What else was recorded? What exists that we can use? I mean, if it does come out, we'll probably complain, because it'll probably be a 6 LP set that costs $500 or more. But still, It deserves. I'd love to get a vinyl version of this.
Yeah, and also like the person that they got to remix like most of the Whitesnake stuff, Chris Collier. I think he did a really good job on most of
Yes.
the stuff. I think like the Restless Heart remix is amazing.
Yeah,
I
really
love that.
good.
I
Yeah.
prefer that over the original. Like
Yeah.
no doubt about that.
Well, he definitely made it sound more like a Whitesnake album.
Yeah, absolutely. But we'll get to that
Yeah.
when we do that episode. And some other of the remixes are really fantastic. So Chris Collier doing like a remix of this, if Page and Coverdale doesn't do it, that would
Yeah.
be really cool because I think he did a great job.
It would be. It would have to be. I think it would have to be Page agreeing to it because he likes to do things. He likes to do that stuff himself. I mean, I don't know how many times he's reissued the Led Zeppelin catalog. I don't think there's a single note left in the vaults anywhere. So if it's okay with him to go, yes, I like what he's doing. Go, you've got my permission. Go ahead. We'll see.
We'll see. Absolutely. Yeah. All right, Tim. That was Coverdale Page. Really solid album. Really do like it. If I were to give it a score, I would probably say maybe an 8 out of 10. I think this is just really solid. It's not super, super, super amazing. It's not bad. It's somewhere in between. I think it's just really solid, good album.
I'd probably give it an 8 or an 8.5. Yeah, it's really good. It's not perfect, but it's really, really good. Yeah. And it's it's one of my favorite albums from this year that it came out.
Yeah,
for sure.